Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Sharing Circle podcast. My name is Arno Kaplan, and today we're welcoming Julie Matthews, our Director of Tenant Communications at BGIS. So, hi, Julie. How are you doing?
Hello, Arno. Great to speak to you again.
Great to see you. So, Julie, we'll start. Can you please introduce yourself and your role?
Hi, my name is Julie Matthews. I'm the Director of Tenant Communications for BGIS and the Real Property One account, which is with Public Works and Procurement Canada. I've been in this role for almost 8 years. I'm one of those long-term BGIS employees combined with BGIS. I've been with BGIS almost close to 30 years. So, I really love the job I do. I get to speak with all of the Canadian federal departments, work on their different initiatives. So I really do enjoy what I do.
That's great. So can you tell me, Julie, how do you collaborate with Wade Griffin, our Indigenous Engagement Director?
Wade is such a special person. He has such a vision for what he wants to do with BGIS and how we build our Indigenous Engagement Program. I first met Wade across the table in Atlantic Canada in person pre-COVID. So we've been doing this for at least years and working together. He is such a genuine, great person. So we interact fairly often. My role has been to support him in doing any type of outreach that he needs support. So really he gives me sort of my marching instructions, and I follow through to help him in whatever way I can. Initially, when we started 3 years ago, it was the establishment of the BGIS Indigenous Communications Committee, which is a volunteer committee where we go cross contracts to work with our team members to understand what do they want to see, what do they want to hear, what's important to them. And this is a very informal structure. It doesn't have, sort of the do's and don'ts, and we don't have deliverables. We get together. It's like doing a virtual coffee with each other. So I support Wade in that. And also in any of the communication programs, the development of videos, our Indigenous brand as well, supporting Indigenous artwork like our BGIS Wampum belt behind me, which is from an Indigenous two-spirited youth from Doki's First Nation, and doing outreach like that in any way I can help.
It's beautiful. Yeah, and just for note, the Wampum belt, I'll try my best to describe it, but it represents the way our two cultures, they are parallel to one another. They don't cross, but we live in harmony together. Like the Indigenous culture and how the other cultures and the Indigenous culture go in harmony together. That's what I understood from the Wampum belt.
Yes, and it's the four colors of the medicine wheel that our beater did. Is he said, well, they're together, all of these different cultures working together. And it really shows the cross-cultural requirements of Canada and how Indigenous people want to work together with all of those, whether it be white, Black, Asian, as well as Indigenous. So those are the colors sort of represented in the wampum belt, but it's supposed to show harmony together.
That's the key. Okay, great. And you participated also in, like you were here at the beginning with Wade to foster the Indigenous engagement strategy at BGIS. So you saw the beginning of it and you really collaborated with Wade on this. So
absolutely. And in the development of the Two Paths booklet that we have on our website as well, and really giving it form and structure. Wade focused on building that structure because we need a structure. And I continue to support in working with Indigenous vendors. My specialty is in the Indigenous art program because that's where I've made most of my progress. Like the BGIS Wampum belt. But this morning I met with a great company out of Sudbury that really, works with, the visual storytelling of Indigenous artists. And it's funny because we were talking to morning, and my background is I'm from the Caribbean. And so we talked about mixed backgrounds, and he says, yeah, well, my father was part Caribbean, part Indigenous, and his Irish mother. So we talk about the cultures, and we said, oh my God, we are similar. And we connected automatically that way. But it's interesting when you start talking to people and you connect with people in different ways, you're looking for those commonalities. Art is a great way to do that and connect. So we made a lot of headway in that area, and we continue to bring on board Indigenous artists as well. Very important to us. Think of a building as a canvas that can tell a story, provide engagement, be this wonderful place to bring Indigenous awareness to those people who are working in the building, visiting the building.
Yeah, like bringing their vision. And so so we can really easily and see it right away when it's in the buildings, like in front of us when we enter, or outside. Like it's beautiful. Yeah. Another question: what challenges does BGIS experience currently with its Indigenous engagement strategy?
Well, we have a lot of challenges. Sometimes the structure of our procurement activities, our engagement activities, don't necessarily work well with an Indigenous culture. And the reason being is, I will use my meeting this morning. He talked about storytelling, and how many times do we talk about marketing and communication in the form of storytelling? And that's what Sharing Circle is all about. And, if you go to a marketing company, they talk about brand, et cetera, et cetera. But the challenge is that doesn't necessarily work well. That structure of an organization doesn't really work well with the Indigenous perspectives. So that's a challenge. The other challenge, and Arno, you and I can talk about this, because I wish everybody felt the same passion we do. Not everybody does. And we have taken the time to learn Indigenous cultures, figure it out, make our mistakes. But I wish everyone were like you and I, then we would be able to accomplish so much.
Yeah. But we have the Indigenous Committee at BGIS that you created, and I see more and more people coming into the committee and wanting to do their part too. Like I see they are eager to help, and it's beautiful to see that we are not the only ones. Like there are more people too who want to contribute, and more, and it's with initiatives like this, like the podcast we do, or everything you do with everything at BGIS, so towards Indigenous culture. It's those small steps that really contribute to more people getting interested and having more people involved in the movement. So
absolutely. And you know what it is? It's the power of the people that, as we get together, it doesn't need to be the president or the director. It needs to be all of us together moving towards that two paths. And what change we've made with limited resources, and while we're making those changes, we're convincing everyone to come along with us on our journey. So that's something we're still working on. We still have some work to do. We still have challenges, but we need to convince others to come along with us on this journey. And like you said, it's interesting because we're getting organized for the Odawa PowWow the end of May. We're working with the RCMP and connected to the RCMP and Odawa. And can you imagine the progress we're making by just that event because it's the RCMP? And the continued conversation we're going to have with RCMP and Odawa as we have this event at Canadian Police College in Ottawa in the future. So this is our opportunity to get involved, and it's very exciting.
I'll participate in it, and I'm very excited to be part of it. Could you please talk about your experience with the North Bay Friendship Center and the hiring of interns at BGIS?
Well, it was interesting. One of the first steps we had to do was Wade said, reach out to the friendship centers. First, we had to figure out who, what, where, when. And we did outreach. And I got literally, when you cast a net and you catch a fish. Well, we were able to get interest from the North Bay Friendship Center and their contact there, which has been tremendous. There, and it has a lot to do with the North Bay Friendship Center and our contact, Stephen Gilbo there, and his efforts to work with us. And I've gone to the North Bay Friendship Center, visited it. It was very powerful, because one thing we didn't understand before is that, sure, we have work and we want to do some hiring, but the friendship centers are dealing with a multitude of issues within their community, and we might be lower on their list, but we were able to provide over the years a lot of recruitment. BGIS runs a North Bay hospital as well, so our BGIS representative there has been tremendous help working with the North Bay Friendship Center in hiring a lot of their candidates and their members. We've done that myself through internships as well, sort of virtually. So it was a great opportunity to build that relationship. And now Stephen Gilbo from North Bay Friendship Center can call me and say, Julie, I need this, this, and this. That's or amazing. Rob, who is BGIS running the North Bay Hospital, Steve can call him as well. So now we've made these connections, two of us within BGIS to the North Bay Friendship Center.
That's very interesting. So you were the one who established the connection between the hospital in North Bay and the Friendship Center. So you reached out to the Friendship Center first, and then you put them in relation with the hospital, and they were able to. Okay.
Yeah, that's the advantage of being around for a while.
Yeah.
And they're going, I know we run the hospital up there. Oh, who is it? Oh, it's Rob.
Oh, that's interesting.
Rob, can you do me a favor?
Yeah. That's how it works, eh? Yeah.
That's how it works. And he's been wonderful. He's been a true advocate for Indigenous hiring in North Bay, and having such a large site in North Bay is helpful. We have government sites there, but they're small, and we have vendors. We don't have anything that we would have an on-site technician. They do. So I reached out to where I knew the need would be.
Okay. And how many interns were able to work in the hospital?
If my memory is correct, about 6 or 7 for the last 3 years.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and myself. So we recruited, Wade and I recruited 2 interns from North Bay. So between us, about 6 or 7.
Okay, interesting. And last question, what is your vision for your current role? Like, what are you trying to accomplish by being so active in the Indigenous Engagement Strategy at BGIS?
Well, it's interesting. We had this discussion because we have our challenges, and sometimes we get frustrated, and I look at the commitment the government of Canada has, and I'm glad I am on the Real Property One account, because they're absolutely committed. And I have a vision where we would have Indigenous vendors and art in each building. Can you imagine the impact we could have for the Indigenous art culture if we can incorporate Indigenous design, art, culture, languages, because the design includes Indigenous languages. And we're doing this with the support from PSPC. We see it 25 St. Clair, and the great and beautiful Indigenous artwork they're doing there. We see it at our CD Howe Indigenous Solar Pergola. We completed the Department of Justice smudging room. We have Indigenous vendors supplying and doing work for us right across Canada. There's so many now that I couldn't list them all, whereas when we started 3 years ago, we struggled with finding that. So for me, a vision is mostly on the art side, not so much on the vendor side, but we're bringing on Indigenous artists. We're bringing them together to create, these great spaces within government buildings.
Yeah, and I've been lucky to attend an art exposition done at City Hall on 300 Sparks in Ottawa, and it was done by Indigenous students. They were young. They must have been like 11, 12 years old, but they were displaying their art in the building right at the entry. It was beautiful to see it, like all this genuine art, Indigenous art coming from kids. It was like, wow. And it's still there,
yeah,
right?
And now,
I think that's beautiful.
Oh, and it's wonderful. Now we've documented that as Canada's cultural property. It will be there forever, taken care forever. And we're expanding that program to another location in Ottawa as well. And we've had discussion about taking that art show on a road show that's still kind of in the Ottawa area. And hopefully we'll be able to expand that program. And one of the quotes the students said to us is, "I didn't know I was Indigenous until I started that program." And what a wonderful legacy to leave behind.
Yeah.
PSBC and BGIS funded the materials, a small amount, and what beautiful artwork. It was done during the pandemic, so maybe we didn't get as much visibility into it, but oh my gosh, it's so powerful when you can influence young lives like that.
Yeah, it stays. Like I'm sure they will remember it, like I'm sure forever. To be part of something and to have this kind of impression to them it's beautiful.
Can you imagine them going back in 15 years and looking at their artwork in a federal building? It's been taken care of, right? Yeah. So that's a powerful message. If we can make a difference, one person at a time, that's what we hope to do.
Yeah. Well, thank you for this. It's beautiful to hear this.
And Arnaud, thank you for your support. It's with people like yourself and the other members of the Indigenous engagement team who have been absolutely critical in building the program across Canada. And it's a power of us and the difference we can make with minimal resources. And one day I hope we get more funding and resources to do this, but one step at a time.
Exactly. It's teamwork.
Absolutely. And sometimes we feel the pleasure in this is volunteering.
Yeah.
We made the difference.
That's volunteering. Yeah.
Yeah.
Volunteering. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you, Julie. And if you, sorry. Yeah, go on.
I was going to say thank you, Arnaud, too. Miigwech.
Miigwech. And if you want to follow Julie on LinkedIn, she's very active on LinkedIn, so you can see a lot of beautiful posts in there. I'll put the link in the description. Thank you and bye. Thank you for listening.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening, everyone. If you've enjoyed this episode, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Take care and miigwech.